So when people actually talk of stage fear, I had no idea what they're talking about. Now that I'm on here, I know exactly what it feels like. I am absolutely mortified. but seeing all of you here today is absolutely fantastic. I mean, I know the kind of issues you face to get here. All of you are business leaders in your own respect. All of you have your own setups, your families. And I really appreciate the fact that you've all come here. So thank you all so much for that. You know, it's quite funny. 3 years ago, if someone would have told me that Legion would do as well as it actually has, and that I'd be here today talking to a bunch of well-wishers, clients, family, all of you, I would have probably not believed it. Not because I have doubt in what we do. I do. I have a lot of faith in what we do. But I believe in being realistic in life. But actually, I should have been surrealistic. It's only when you actually believe that you're better than what you are, that you actually can do better than what you do. And today is a result of that. You know, this is nothing less than a miracle. It's only when you believe that you're capable of performing miracles and not just being on the receiving end of miracles, do they actually happen. And today, I'm reminded of a favorite movie of mine. It's called Bruce Almighty, where there's a dialogue between Morgan Freeman, who plays the role of God, and Jim Carrey, who plays Bruce. And Bruce says, he's in this dilemma about giving everybody what they want and performing miracles. He thinks God is all about that. But what Morgan Freeman tells him is that miracles don't happen when Moses separates the Red Sea or something like that. That's also a miracle. It doesn't happen when you walk on water. Miracles happen every day because everybody is tuned into doing them subconsciously. Today is one such example. All of you are here is nothing less than a miracle. He also says that a single mother making it in time for her child's tuition every day is a miracle. A father letting go of his work and then coming in to see his son's concert or performance, that is a miracle. So we are actually the miracle. We just don't know it. And today, standing here, I can actually say that Legion has completed 3 years is nothing short of a miracle. It's because of all of you. I just want to end this little welcome note of mine by quoting two of my favorite people. One is, of course, the genius, Albert Einstein, who said, we can live our life in two ways. One is by believing as though everything is a miracle, and the other by saying that nothing is a miracle. So you take your pick. Miracles are going to happen irrespective. And secondly, Dr. Wayne Dyer, who I read a lot, he said, I'm realistic. I believe in miracles. I'd like to tune that a little bit. I'd like to say now that I've become surrealistic. I expect miracles to happen. Today is a miracle. Today is surreal. Thank you all so much for being here. I'd just like to, before I pass the stage on to Mr. Subroto Bagchi, who I will introduce in just a minute, although he needs absolutely no introduction. I just want you to all of you to meet the team behind this incredible story so far. 3 years seems like such a long time, but actually it's just yesterday. So, Team Legion, can you please come over here, all of you? Ladies and gentlemen, Gaurav Sethi, founding partner.
Hi.
Ashutosh Ojha, the database manager. Rana Kambekar, manager commercial real estate. And last but by no means the least, Manju Koshi, executive assistant cum office manager. So this is Team Legion, and we're always at your service. Thank you.
Thanks. So, please. Thank you, everybody.
So before I invite on stage Mr. Bagchi, I just want to tell you a couple of things. I've met a lot of people in my life, none as inspiring as him. Right from his books, if you take his journey, he introduced us to the concept of high-performance entrepreneur. He urged us to go kiss the world through his phenomenal yet absolutely simplistic writing. He jostled seamlessly between MBAs at 60, who were at the age of 16. He taught us a lot of things about being a professional. And now if you take a walk on a Zen garden, then you'll know exactly what I mean. And one of his most popular books right now, which I'm reading, is Elephant Catchers, and all of you should read it. But it gives me absolutely great pride to introduce to you a phenomenal human being, a friend, philosopher, guide, guru, mentor. Ladies and gentlemen, Subroto Bagchi.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, and it's such a pleasure to be here. I don't do this. I stay away from stuff like this because it's not easy, because many of you are entrepreneurs here, and we really don't do the celebrity circuit, right? We have businesses to run. So though I write books, recently Economic Times actually wrote to me saying that, don't you do professional speaking circuit? And I said, no, I absolutely don't do that. It's a huge waste of time. But when Jaideep wrote to me and said that we have a 3-year celebration happening, and some of his friends are coming in, I felt it's my moral obligation to come, because I've seen Jaideep, Gaurav, sorry, wherever you're sitting. I met Jaideep before I met Gaurav when he was a corporate executive, and there was something about him which stood out. We were a startup at that time. Mindtree is a 15-year-old company, and I think we met you when we were about 4 or 5 years old. So you're 3 years old today, right? So the smell of a startup, the smell of an entrepreneur is very special, because entrepreneurs are very special people. And something about this smell was amazing. And then I have seen how he's grown up. And the day he said, we've done it, the corporate stuff, we're starting something on our own, I knew that a beautiful thing will happen. And I have come personally here to pay my tribute to that beautiful thing. Because I think we are a country of 1.2 billion people, and India, like never before, needs good people be entrepreneurs. Because the government's job is not to create jobs. The government's job is to feed itself. And it's people like us who will create the jobs for the 1.2 billion people who need, when I met his team saying, we need to create jobs so that people feel happy, the people feel that this is a platform where we'll grow up to be our best. People feel that we should marry a boyfriend or girlfriend, and we should have a baby, and we should buy a house. It's so critical. So we need institutions and institution makers. Life has, if you look at life has 2 kinds of people, path makers and people who are path dependent. I think the people who are path dependent are critical, because the world goes round and round because of them. Predictability is what they deliver. But we need path creators, people who will create a new path where none exists before. So I believe that people like Gaurav and people like Jaideep are path makers, and India needs more of them. So I'm here personally to pay tribute to that spirit of enterprise, the spirit of entrepreneurship. And I decided that today I will be not making you PowerPoint presentations, because I neither have the power nor the point. And I'll speak from my heart and leave much to interaction. That will be a much better way of conversing than me engaging you with a monologue. It's very difficult to engage people with monologue, because we live in a world which is becoming information rich and attention deficient. I do want to say a few things, but I'll leave much of the evening to an interaction, so you have to lead the way. But before I do that, he talked about miracles, and I was reading some time back that it's not that just this evening is a miracle. I think we are the miracle. Each one of us has a choice of parting the sea in our own lives. Okay. The sea is in the mind. The sea is not a physical sea. Each one of us has, in our personal capacity and professional capacity, sometime or the other have parted the sea. The story in the Old Testament is a symbolic story, and it is meant to be taken symbolically. As I was telling you some time back, I read this, that look, I'm a miracle because I'll tell you, all of you in this room, to stop your heart for a second. Can you do that? You can stop your breath. You can't stop your heart. Isn't that a miracle? Isn't it a miracle that we have babies, and every baby is a miracle? So every day in our personal lives, we don't pause to think that it is a miracle. And the fact that people come together, today there are 6 people. I hope that in time it will be 600 people. So when we congregate again to celebrate the 5th year of the company, we should be seeing 600 people. 600 people need not be your employees, but 600 people who believe in you. And I'll give you an example of that later as I speak. So, we are the chief miracle officers on this planet. Life is short. Miracles are abundant. I'm the miracle. You are the miracle. Every day is a miracle. So that's a wonderful start in terms of engaging in a conversation. Back to my proposition that we have path makers and path creators. Many of you are path makers here in this room. And path makers are true leaders because they're not afraid of the dark. They're not afraid of the consequences. They're not afraid of the presence or absence of approval. So entrepreneurs are people who are path makers. Now, many of us start companies, and today if you look at India, there's no dearth of entrepreneurship. What India has scarcity of is scale. Many of us start, and our entitlement is not 200 crores. Our entitlement may be 2,000 crores. But we stop at 200 crores, and we think that we have hit the glass ceiling. And we impose our judgment on external factors and say, the market is not good, this is not good, that is not good. Yet, in my fascinating study in the last 5 years, I find that India has abundance of people who are breaking through the glass ceiling or de-recognizing the glass ceiling, and they are scaling. And then I looked at some not-for-profit organizations. I looked at many for-profit organizations. I looked at small companies, large companies, companies in tier 2 cities and tier 3 towns of India. And when I looked at them, I found that people who are able to build scale and not just entrepreneurship have done 6 things very well. And I want to talk to you a little bit about those 6 things, but after that, I really want to turn over the conversation to you so that we can engage in a dialogue. The people who scale, rule number 1 is that they are comfortable with the idea of scale. If you're scared of scale, then you're dead. And I met many people here in this room who are children of displacement. People whose grandparents or great-grandparents came away from maybe a place like Rajasthan or some place like Gujarat. And if they were afraid of the displacement to come to a big city like Mumbai or Pune, because it's a big city is about scale, then they won't be able to come here and build value. People who build scale are not afraid of scale. The scale presents itself in many different ways. It could be a city, it could be size of business, it could be number of employees. So if you want to build scale, we have to be comfortable with the idea of scale. The second thing I find in companies, organizations, individuals, is that people who scale, and this is very fascinating, and this will apply to Jaideep and Gaurav and many of us in this room, is that every once in a while, something about them must visibly change. And let me clarify that, what I mean by that. When you're building an organization, doesn't matter for business or not for business, once in at least 5 years, something has to visibly change, which means that it has to be visibly changing to the external world. Now, this is counterintuitive to entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs are told early on that you have to focus. Now, if you focus really hard, how will you ever change? What will you change? That brings us to the question, if every once in a while something must visibly change, what is the something? It's usually one or more of the following three things. Number one, your customer must change. If on your 5th year celebration, we have, all of us want to be invited, by the way, but if it's just this group, then you are dead. Who constitutes your customer must change. So your customer must change. The product and service that you deliver must change. The third thing is that the way you deliver that product or service must change. The Japanese were the first people to recognize this, and they said it very beautifully. They said that every 5 years we die. Companies particularly die every 5 years. So unless you are changing one of those factors, you do not realize that you are actually living dead. So if you're the same business, doing with the same customers in the same way, then you are living dead. So something, principle number 2 is something must visibly change every 5 years. Now 5 years, God didn't say. It could be 4 years, it could be 7 years, but it better not be 10 years. Very, very critical. The third principle that I find pervasive in companies that have scaled is that scaling is an intellect game. People who scale first scale their own intellect. It's a mind game. As you talked about miracles, now miracles are in the mind. So if you look at your own companies, some of you are not entrepreneurs, some of you are running a corporation for somebody else. But if you really apply your mind, you'll find that we create the world as a replica of our mind. It happens in the mind first. It happened in your mind that you'll create this business. Otherwise, you could have been successful executives in any organization that you wanted to. I will argue in any business that you wanted to. It didn't have to be real estate. But something happened in your mind. And lo and behold, you have some of the finest thinking, well-meaning people of the city of Pune in this room today. So it happened in the mind. Now, that mind has to scale. That mind cannot be what it was 5 years back. Now, how much that mind will scale is really in the hand of the entrepreneur. Most entrepreneurs blame the environment. They blame the recession. They blame the friends and family. They blame the financial institutions. They blame customers for sure. Customer order nahi de raha hai is a very favorite refrain. But the fact of the matter is the failure is here. The failure is not external. Most organizations who don't scale because the core people in that organization are failing to scale their intellect. It's very important that we scale intellect. So I told you 3 principles. Number 1, you have to be comfortable with the idea of scale. Number 2, you have to change something perceptibly, visibly, at least once in 5 years. Number 3, I said that the entrepreneurship game, the enterprise game, the life game, the personal life game is all about scaling the intellect. It's a state of mind. The 4th principle is that we have to scale reputation. It's a very, very interesting thing. For the first time in the history of business, reputation is no longer a nice thing to have. Reputation is capital. In the beginning, we thought money is capital, and all of us, or rather most of us in this room, have grown up to recognize that machinery is capital. Some of you are from family businesses that you have moved out from, and those family businesses had to do with manufacturing. And in manufacturing, machinery was actually worshipped as God, at least once a year. So we thought machinery is capital. And then came the knowledge industry, where we said people are capital, human resource capital. Today I'll argue that reputation is capital. Why reputation is capital? Because if you look at your own company, Gaurav and Jaideep, and you want to be 600 people, it's not going to be rainbow and flowers and sunrise, okay? You will make some serious mistakes. And many of those serious mistakes will be in the public view, in the public domain. Now, that's rite of passage. 2 companies will make a serious mistake. One company will be forgiven, and the other company, the whole world will be up on their case. The difference is which of the 2 companies pre-invested in building reputation. So mistakes are inevitable. Some mistakes will be in the public eye, but you have to pre-invest. You know, it's like an ATM. So that at the time when you will screw things up, you may not screw things up. Actually, what will happen is, you look at Delhi Metro, okay, built by one of the greatest visionaries the country has ever produced, but he can't prevent a flight